Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we are discussing the latest Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 600-meter chronograph, 45.5 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel. This watch is a beefy 19 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, 52 millimeters is the total distance across the wrist with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw the watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit because you need to see this watch in relation to the actual size of my hand and my wrist. I could wear this if I were comfortable with a bit of a bombastic aesthetic. Because it's not super broad lug to lug for its size, you could wear it on a 16 centimeter circumference wrist, but you're going to get an IWC big pilot watch-like look. It's going to appear deliberately huge, which might be fine for a tool-style watch that puts a premium on visibility. But if you want something a little bit more discreet, I recommend you get a smaller watch. So I'm going to say don't wear this watch on a wrist smaller than 17 centimeters circumference, unless you want to deal with a little bit of a size disparity between watch and wrist. Now, the timepiece is too thick to fit underneath any kind of a cuff, but it is a hardcore sports style watch, so you're probably not going to be wearing it with, for example, French cuffs. It has a 3-link bracelet, and you can see that the links are all satinated. The flanks of them are also satinated. We have a conforming end piece, but unlike, say, a Rolex bracelet here, we have a pivoted end link, so this huge watch doesn't wind up absolutely brobdingnagian across the wrist. With solid end links, this could very easily have been a 55, 56 millimeter lug-to-lug dimension. The bracelet's nicely made. Removable links are fixed by screws, and you can see there's enough of them that you should be able to fine-tune the size, though you do have a few additional tools. We have a push-button slider that gives you 9.6 millimeters of incremental, that is detented adjustment, and then we've got an all-or-nothing flip-out dive extension if you do want to just fold it out and pop it over a dry suit or a wetsuit. We have a very thick gauge steel clasp with a single fold swing arm, twin trigger release, a deep Omega engraving, and a little polished bevel on the edge. You can see how that looks internally. It closes quite securely. Taking a quick look at the case, it's very simple and familiar to Omega fans. Lyre-style lugs, so we have both an inner and an outer bevel, satinated mid-case, polished bevel. It runs the length of the case, helium escape valve. Open this up, and as you emerge from a saturation dive, when the internal pressure exceeds external pressure by 2 to 3 bar because of helium intrusion, as you ascend from your dive, provided you've opened the valve, it will release that helium and you will not blow out the seals or the crystals of the watch. Let's do a quick lume shot here. The entirety of the bezel is lumed. In fact, you can see the entirety of the dial is lumed, including sub-registers. Now, despite the fact that we do have a ceramic bezel, the entire bezel is impregnated with luminescent material, and you can appreciate that Omega made the bezel pearl and the minute hand green, so you can quickly judge those two relative to each other, because you're more likely to be using the bezel to time a dive than, for example, to use the chronograph under those circumstances. So the bezel becomes life-saving gear, or at least backup life-saving gear, and it's important to be able to read the bezel against the minute hand at a glance. Now, jumping back to this dial, there's a lot to love. First of all, the bezel. It's a very positive, sharp, and precise 120 click. It feels good, it sounds good. We have an orange ceramic insert. Don't take that for granted. This is difficult to achieve. Very few brands have been able to achieve orange ceramic, and it stands as one of Omega's most impressive technical achievements. True, the ceramic work is done by other Swatch Group companies. They handle the material science, but Omega, as part of the Swatch Group, benefits immensely. Now, we have rhodium-plated hands, Omega logo, and indices, which are all applique. We have a dial. We'll get as close as we can here. You can see under the hands, titanium. The dial's made of titanium, and it's got this lovely media blasted finish. You can see we have sunken registers, twin countersunken registers, but a twin register vintage look and a cleaner dial with 3 register capability. The register over at 3 o'clock has both chronograph minutes and chronograph hours, so we have a simplified dial. We have a few subsidiary setting functions. One of them is this time zone mode, where I can actually move the hour hand forward and backwards. The chronograph keeps running, the minute hand is not touched, the seconds hand continues to advance, and I can advance the date forward or backwards depending on whether I'm traveling east or west. Now, if I want to stop everything, I can do so by pulling the crown out. Now we have hacking seconds. The crowns for the chronograph look like they might be screw downs, but they're not. They're little shoulders that provide some shearing protection. You can always operate the chronograph without having to screw in or out crown structures. The watch is 600 meters water resistant, and it features the helium escape valve. What's impressive is it's 600 meters in spite of using a display case back. Now we have in here a master chronometer certified, caliber 9900. Master chronometer takes all of the COSC requirements, which are ISO 3159 derived. This watch meets all those ISO 3159 requirements and COSC requirements, but Omega goes beyond, casing up the watch and testing it in 6 positions, not 5. And so it also tests for shock resistance, winding efficiency, power reserve, water resistance, and anti-magnetism. And thanks to an anti-magnetic escapement and a silicon hairspring, this watch is anti-magnetic to over 15,000 Gauss, which is basically amagnetic. The movement features a column wheel for crisp feel and sound of the chronograph, and then a vertical clutch for smooth engagement of the chronograph. So if you just want to start the chrono and leave it running because of the vertical clutch, there is no additional wear and tear to the watch. And as you can see, that's just a little mark on the sapphire. So you can leave your chrono running full time. The watch does feature a full balance bridge, a free spring balance, and a winding rotor on bearings to make it more shock tolerant. The timepiece has twin mainspring barrels, which means you won't have a big amplitude drop off after 24 hours like you would with a single mainspring barrel. It has 60 hours of power reserve, and it beats at a quirky rate of 25,200 vibrations per hour, which is a rate that Swatch Group has established pretty much group-wide for movements that use silicon hairsprings. You could see the column wheel through the skeletonized bridge. You can see the full balance bridge with the free sprung index. What you can't see is the tri-level coaxial escapement, which is a tangential contact direct and indirect impulse escapement developed in 1974 by George Daniels of the UK and implemented by Omega in 1999. It helps to improve chronometry. It helps to improve performance between services, and helps to improve power reserve. So it has several different advantages and benefits. And this movement pivoting on 54 joules, there is lots to love here. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.